Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Well, the answer to the question that is burning inside of everyone who is watching this posting at this time, answer is as follows. We concluded our Passover on Thursday evening with a lavish meal consisting of vegetable pizza, spaghetti with mushrooms and onions, and chocolate cake. Having thoroughly cleaned our refrigerator before Pesach, I now have to strip it clean again just to remove the crumbs, the spills, and it always happens, some items that we simply forgot to eat. Okay, our Sedra this week is Shmini, Leviticus 9, verse 1 and following. We also are continuing with counting the Omer, reaching number 11 on Saturday. And each Shabbat from now on, we will also be studying a chapter of Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our ancestors. As we continue the journey from Egypt and freedom to Mount Sinai and the revelation of Torah. This is a very busy and important period indeed. The central story of our Sedra is well known and is extremely controversial. Nadav and Avihu, two of Aaron's 4 sons, newly ordained as Kohanim, bring an Eish Zara, an alien fire, before God on the newly consecrated altar. The text now says, "And fire came forth from the eternal and consumed them. Thus they died by the will of God." What a horrible, devastating blow to Aaron, to the 2 surviving brothers, and of course, to Uncle Moses. Now, there is an unwritten rule within biblical studies that states, when the rabbis offer multiple and differing explanations to an event, that signals that they don't have a clue as to what is actually going on. Jonathan Sacks offers a sampling of what various rabbis have offered as explanations for Nadav and Avihu. The brothers entered the Holy of Holies, forbidden. They were not wearing proper garments. The fire they brought was from the kitchen and not from the altar. They had failed to consult with Moses and Aaron. They had failed to pause a bit to discuss matters over between the 2 of them. They wanted to push Dad aside and take Aaron's role. They refused to marry, considering themselves above such matters. They had conspired in the matter of the golden calf and now were being punished. And finally, their actions revealed more pride than sincerity. So much Sacks. So many answers, none of them convincing. 2 other answers have survived the challenge of the ages, but in legal terms, neither of the 2 is really dispositive. Neither answer locks things down in a satisfactory manner. But here they are. First, our text includes Moses quoting God as having said, "Bikrovai ekadesh," through those near to me, I show myself holy. Well, how is that an answer? Those who are called to sacred service will always be held to a high ethical and moral standard. The prophet Amos echoes that perspective when he says to his people, "Okay, it's true. You have been singled out among all of the other peoples of the earth, and therefore you will be held to a much higher standard." Amos. Whether you are captain of your sports team or the head of a vast corporation or senior elected official, it is a given that you can never afford to hide behind business as usual. Leadership has a price. It always has a price. If you aspire to authority and leadership, you will be held accountable. How much the more so if you aspire to religious leadership. In recent years, religious figures from across denominations and faith groups have been accused and often convicted of offenses ranging from financial manipulation to breach of faith to sexual exploitation. Public shaming, loss of position, financial penalties, and even prison time have resulted. When it was revealed that Judaism would not be exempt from such events, we were at first shocked, and then in most cases we moved to exact a high price from those leaders who failed us. Okay, does that explain Nadav and Avihu? The second answer, that also has some serious support, is that there is a strong sense of ego present in any who would aspire to leadership. I know that I will be accused of a modicum of cynicism when I say this, but at times, profuse expressions of humility coming from those who have taken on leadership have seemed to me to be but thinly disguised expressions of ego. I am reminded of an old story about a Yom Kippur event when the senior rabbi throws himself on the ground before the ark and cries out in Yiddish, "Ich bin agonished, I'm a nothing." His assistant rabbi falls down beside him and cries out, "Ich bin agonished." And then the cantor throws herself down next to them and cries out, "Ich bin agonished," leading the junior rabbi to whisper to his boss, "Look who thinks that she is a nothing." Our texts teach us that God had to create acts of self-limitation, of tzimtzum, in order to create the world, and then again in order to manifest the divine presence in the sanctuary. If God can limit the divine self, surely we can control our own egos. Nadav and Avihu failed to do so. They paid. So we have an event that cannot be satisfactorily explained. But recently I was reading through a Torah commentary on our Sedra, created in Hebrew by a friend, Reform Rabbi Alona Lisitsky. She turns our passage upside down. She wants us to understand that in most of the other commentaries, the rabbis were pushing back against those who were testing boundaries, who were experimenting with radical autonomy. Rabbis didn't like that. She wants us to remember that the word enthusiasm comes from the Greek and means experiencing the God within. Acting with enthusiasm sometimes brings joy and happiness. But enthusiasm can be very, very dangerous, Lisitsky. Even as getting too close to God can be very, very dangerous. Enthusiasm can lead to zealotry, to volatility, to fanaticism. Enthusiastic people can be very, very dangerous people. Maybe Nadav and Avihu really had no intention to violate any laws or to challenge their leaders. But maybe they were so swept away by the sacred joy of the ordination that they allowed their enthusiasm to drag them into a fatal confrontation. Their passions led to their deaths. It's fascinating. May we find in these weeks leading up to Shavuot new ways to connect with the passionate joy, the enthusiasm of our identities, while caring always to avoid the pitfalls of ego, of unbridled narcissism and extremism. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great week. See you next week.